everybody. I'm Alex with the Somewhat Podcast Men. Today's podcast was sponsored by Khalas Energy Drink. One drink and Khalas. Along with Stay Fresh Loda. Stay Fresh Loda. Stay Fresh. Cholo men's supplements when you need that extra cholo. All right, everybody. Today's podcast is going to be about Turkey. Turkey is a country that's located on the Anatolian Plain in West Asia that ties into Southeast Europe. So we're going to be talking about its geopolitical effect on the world, including what's going on in Russia and Ukraine. Fellas?
And this is Risque here, and this is definitely an important topic to discuss because a lot of people may not know that much about Turkey, except when it comes to Thanksgiving. You know, it seems like they know about Turkey then.
Oh, Risque. You stole Saint's thunder, bro.
I guess.
You want to say something?
All right,
I guess this won't be a fun one. Like Riz says, a fun one. Well, we'll see. A fun one. All right.
But
this is Saint, and welcome to the podcast. So we'll cue it right back to Alex. Go ahead, hit it, Alex.
I just want to mention, though, that we are going to do a podcast on the poultry during Thanksgiving. We're going to do a Thanksgiving special where we're just eating turkey and falling asleep. Sound good?
Sounds exciting. Sounds really exciting.
It's an American tradition, fellas.
We got 3 months of hot weather before we can even look at that time. So anyways, let's get
Gobble, gobble. All right, so we wanted to talk about about Turkey because it ties into our previous conversation about the war in Ukraine and how it's affecting its neighbors. So we felt it was an important topic to talk about. So a little bit of background about Turkey. We don't want to get too much in the historical aspect of it because then we're just going to go, down a rabbit hole. But the modern Turkey basically was founded after World War I by Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. And we're going to be doing a podcast about that portion of Turkish history soon enough. But throughout the 20th century and now the 21st century, it's mostly been a democratic state. From time to time, the army has overthrown the government to force new elections. And recently, the president or the prime minister of Turkey has been Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who's been prime minister for quite a bit now, I think.
Erdogan.
He was Alex. Yeah, Erdogan. He was prime minister from 2003 to 2014. And he's been president since 2014. But in the past, the president of Turkey was just more like a token type of role. But they did a constitutional amendment in 2016, and the president now has much more power. So basically, he's been the head of the country since 2003.
Yeah.
He's been the man calling the shots.
Well, he's implemented the presidential system kind of like the one we have here. Definitely a better one. Anyways, so
does he read off a teleprompter too, or
no? This guy's pretty good. This guy's good at giving speeches. I mean, he's definitely he's very like if you put him on the spot, he can spin it. I mean, he's good. It takes.
Is he as good as George W. Bush?
The one who, I guess I should say his conscience admitted about the Iraq War while he was trying to put all the blame on Putin for how bad and horrible he is. Oh no, he didn't slip. It was in his mind. It's kind of sunk in.
Back Freudian slip. But back to Turkey.
So I mean, Turkey's been a regional player for quite some time now. They had a resurgence, so to speak, in becoming a regional player under Erdogan, and previously in their modern history, they were more, I don't want to say isolated, but a very neutral country that kind of minded its own business. They didn't really get involved in any kind of like foreign issues
Right.
unless it specifically involved Turkish ethnic nationals or Turkish nationals or Turks, the ethnic group, like in Cyprus. So recently, they've kind of been stretching their foreign policy muscles, their foreign diplomacy muscles, so to speak, and getting involved in Syria, getting involved in politics in Egypt and Saudi Arabia and UAE, in Qatar and Libya.
Alex, if you could briefly just mention so when you said they got involved in Syria, what exactly how did they get involved?
Well, Syria borders Turkey.
Yeah.
So when the civil war in Syria was happening, the Turkish government supported aggressively the opponents of Assad, of the government in Syria.
Okay.
So they were aggressively involved in sending weapons and training the people that were fighting Assad. And there's a lot of say whether those people were proponents of democracy or terrorist groups or radicals. Like, there's been a lot of kind of back and forth about who those groups are in Syria that are fighting Assad. And they came into direct conflict with Russia during that time.
What do you think, Saint? Saint's got something.
I think I would loosely call it a civil war. It was instigated.
What do you?
You do realize that Iran, with the help of Russia at the end of it, they were trying to push out the Daesh, and the Daesh, or ISIS, you would say it, were being helped by Turkey and the Western alliances, which a big part of them are still present in UNDLIP.
Wait a second, Saint. Wait, Saint. Who was helping Daesh?
Turkey was helping the ISIS and the Daesh groups. They were supplying weapons, so they could,
really,
yeah. And
that's why I brought that up.
He was loosely kind of using the term, the terrorist groups and the civil war, but
I see, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and this is one of those times where I'm not going to disagree with Saint. There was definitely some of that going on. Turkey was using them to their benefit, so to speak. And
got it. It was like a proxy war. It's a proxy war.
Yeah, there was a proxy war going on, and also, to Saint's point, there was a lot of Western powers that were sending weapons and money in that direction as well.
Okay, got it.
So it's the enemy of my enemy is my friend. It was a proxy war between Turkey and Iran, and traditionally, in Turkish history, stretching all the way back to the Seljuks, the Turks have always viewed Syria and Iraq as part of their homeland, and they view it as they are the rightful rulers of Persia, so to speak. So there's always been conflict between those two groups since the Seljuks, since the Ottomans. This is just like I said earlier, a resurgent of past historical models. So
I think there's a lot of the hint of the Sunni and the Shia, faction war too in there, because Bashar al-Assad is being backed by Iran, heavy proponent for the Shias, and I think there's a good hint or fragrance of that in there.
So Turkey actually took a portion of Syria. They control a portion of Syria, and they announced yesterday that they're going to be going back into Syria to do another offensive. So this ties into what Saint was talking about on our last podcast, that Turkey is making deals with Russia right now.
Okay.
Like, Turkey and Russia have always been adversaries, period.
Right.
So they use each other when they can, and they fight each other when they need to.
And Alex, and I think I'm glad you brought that up, because also if you look at it historically as well, even during the time of the Ottoman Empire, they had how many wars with Russia? 10, 11?
Many wars.
They had like 10, starting in the 16th or 17th century.
Right.
Just to give people a rough idea as to how far back this animosity goes.
Yeah.
You also go ahead. So you also got to realize that Turkey has been out of the scene until Erdogan came into power. Is when Turkey started making headlines.
Yeah.
He's been the catalyst to bring about the whole country into like the right dead center. Right now, they're cushioning themselves in a perfect spot. They are negotiating, they are delegating, they're being ambassadors. So they've got a pretty important role right now going on.
Yeah, and like I don't want to get into history too much because then we're just gonna go down a rabbit hole. But that being said, the Ottomans, the Turkish Ottomans, used to control Ukraine.
Yeah.
Large portions of Ukraine, along with Bulgaria and portions of Romania and all of Greece and so there's a long historical expansionist connection with those countries. So if you look at like the reason why Kemal Mustafa Ataturk reined in the foreign policy of the Turks is because it had been failing them for quite some time. He was a forward thinker, a visionary in terms, specifically in terms of empire. He did not feel that empire had any place in the world anymore. Right. So absolutely. he shrank Turkey to its homeland, unfortunately, after World War I, the League of Nations approved a population shift of the Greeks leaving Anatolia and the Turks leaving Western Europe into Turkey. So a bit of a tumultuous time. So there was all neutrality up until recently. And the reason why Erdogan's and Turkey's flexing their foreign policy muscles is because the world isn't as stable as it used to be. Their neighbors are not stable. There's no more Soviet Union. To their east, their northeast, and their north. There's no more, solid Arab bulwark like Syria to their southeast. Their neighbors are all frayed and confused and damaged. Turkey has to flex its muscles at this point in order to stay safe. So now
Turkey joined NATO in 1952, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
So Turkey's been a member of NATO since 1952, and although they applied for membership for the European Union, it's never been approved, which I've always found sort of interesting.
It is pretty interesting, yeah.
Right. I mean, they're part of NATO, but they're not part of the European Union. And if you look at the NATO members, after United States, I think Turkey is the strongest militarily in Europe, aren't they?
They also possess a large stockpile of the nuclear weapons put there by the United States.
Wait, say that again, Saint?
They have nuclear weapons at the U.S. bases that are in Turkey. You did not know that? Yeah, there's nuclear warheads on the bases that the United States have in Turkey.
So you're saying the United States nuclear warheads are there?
Right.
Yeah.
Not theirs, but the United States.
Because I don't think Turkey has nuclear capability, right?
I don't think they need to.
Yeah.
They don't need to waste their resources on that. The U.S. is there with it, but I will say this, that the Turkish foreign policy expansion has gone hand in hand with soft power. They've been pushing out movies and music and sitcoms and soap operas all throughout that region of the world.
So you do know
a tie-in soft power and hard power.
Just what you were talking about, that Erdogan actually can trace his lineage back to the Kai tribe, from which Ertuğrul, the father of Osman, who created the Ottoman Empire, the Caliphate. And it's interesting that he launched a full series is also on Netflix under Resurrection Arturo. It's a pretty popular series, and in fact, even Pakistan, showed that whole series over there.
Saint, I think you should put a link to the show in the show description, so that if people are interested, because you're right, it is a very powerful show. I think
maybe they'll sponsor us too. Who knows? Hey, so one of the reasons, so Turkey joined NATO at the behest of the United States, and they did that because the U.S. viewed them as a bulwark against Soviet expansion. And they're kind of like getting back into that role. They're a bulwark against Russian expansion. And I do want to add something, right? I can't remember which czar it was, but a czar wrote a letter in his will, and he commanded that every czar or czarina after him read this letter when they become czar. And in the letter, it specifically says that the goal of Russia is to reconquer Istanbul and turn it into Constantinople. So from czar to czar, and the Soviet Union inherited the geopolitical desires of the empire, and Russia inherited the geopolitical desires of the Soviet Union. So I have no doubt in my mind that when Putin became, prime minister or president, he read that letter. So there's a long-standing conflict between the two countries. Right now, Russia needs Turkey, so they're a bit more friendlier. Turkey's friendlier to Russia, but let's make no joke about it. The U.S. views Turkey as a bulwark against Russian expansion.
I think Erdogan is actually full aware of how much the European Union trusts Turkey, and knowing his position, he's actually become a very good universal adapter, meaning in relations, he keeps relations very savvy. With everybody. Now, right now, he's made some great trade deals on energy with Israel. Imagine that. Because right when he took power, the way he talked against Israel was...
he's a pragmatist. Is that the right word, pragmatist? Yeah. He catches beef when he feels like he needs to, and he makes peace when it benefits his country, and that's it. I think that's how a politician's supposed to be.
I actually like that about him. He's very practical.
And I think ideologically, if you were to put a label on his style of politics, it would be socially conservative.
Yeah.
And but also populist. So he's got the sort of mix of a social conservative with populism, and he's a very popular leader. Right now, I mean, he's extremely popular in Turkey.
Yeah, to your point about the European Union, Europe has no desire for Turkey to join the European Union.
But why not, man? Why not? Let the Turkey in, man.
I'll tell you why, right? Germany has a good relationship with Turkey, and that's specifically because there's a lot of Turks in Germany. So Germany will never, ever go against Turkish what's the right word? They'll never go against Turkish desires in Europe. They'll always support Turkey. They'll be a supporter of Turkey.
I think go ahead.
The country that is holding back Turkey from joining the European Union and supporting the Greeks against Turkey and causing problems for Turkey everywhere is France.
Really?
The reason why the French are Turkey's European rivals, so to speak, is because France is a Mediterranean country, and Turkey is
France
a Mediterranean country.
And the people, as in French, they've always had a stick up their ass, So, just gonna be straight up about it. I mean, France always has to be different. That's they are. That's what they are. Yeah. Look at the French in Canada. My God, man, Quebec and.
Bro, you're gonna have a lot of people being mad at you, bro. Don't talk about Quebec, son.
They can talk bad about Pakistan. There's a lot of bad stuff about Pakistanis, but I'm just gonna say it. They do have a stick up their ass. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But just what you're talking about, Germany, I think after the fall of the Berlin Wall, they've had their posture is very different from all the other European countries. They've always they look out for their interests, of course. I mean, which I commend them for. They are very nationalistic. Credit to them, and they've always had different stance than the other European countries. And Germany is I think is a lot more mature country in that region.
Yeah, I mean, the stick up their ass, so to speak, for the French is because they're a Mediterranean country and they want to exert their influence across the Mediterranean, into Algeria, into Libya, into Morocco, into. So they view themselves as the master of the Mediterranean. That's what they want. But Turkey also feels the same way.
True, but let me add. Let's like. Do you guys think? And you guys can answer one by one. Do you think, like, would it benefit Turkey to even be in the European Union, or are they better off just being away from it?
I think there's among the conservatives over there, the popular notion is that we should just forget about it because it's enough begging. How they were doing, when before Erdogan's government, I mean, they were like literally just begging to get in. I think Erdogan has had a better posture. Actually, he's making himself more viable, as a whole, that they will, in fact, be like, hey, here's the invitation. But I think at that point, you'll be like, no, just keep it.
Yeah, no, the European Union will never invite Turkey.
I don't think with Erdogan's government, they've shown less and less interest in that avenue, unless it's proposed from their end.
No matter who the president is.
But Alex, do you think would it benefit them if they were part of the European Union? That's
I think it would. Free trade benefits people. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Turks would have free range to go throughout Europe without needing visas or passports.
And I think that's what the Europeans are, afraid of.
So, but yeah, I mean, like Turkey is like in this crazy part of the world. So they have diplomatic issues with the French because the French want to master the Mediterranean. So do the Turks. They have geopolitical issues with Greece because of their history together. And and honestly, Greece is punching above their weight class. So they're getting support from France. And they started to get support from the U.S. So the U.S. is starting to send weapons to Greece and et cetera, in order to bolster them against Turkey. It's like, well, okay, we don't want to have to be 100% reliant on Turkey. And they have issues with the Russians. So the Russians are there, and with Azerbaijan and Armenia. So
Armenia, don't forget Armenia.
This portion of it is. The Turks and the people in Azerbaijan share a common heritage. And there was a conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan over a piece of territory, and it became a proxy war between the Russians and the Turks. Armenia and Azerbaijan was a proxy war between Russia and Turkey. And surprisingly enough, Iran was sending weapons and military resources to Armenia. Against against the Shia majority Azerbaijan country. So,
but now, Alex, let's forward to modern, today. So
this is modern. This war happened last year.
Oh, last year,
Azerbaijan and Armenia happened last year.
But I'm talking about even more recently. I want to get your guys' thoughts on what made the news was this whole Turkey saying that they would not accept Finland and Sweden joining NATO. So what do you guys think about that?
I got something stuck in my head. I have to get it out. I just have to.
Okay.
Whenever I look or think of mackerel, I think of a frog. Sorry, I just get it out. Sorry, I apologize.
Sacre bleu, ribbit.
I mean, Saint, what do you think about the Nordic countries trying to join NATO now?
Yeah.
I think the Nordics are trying to kickstart their Viking heritage for some reason. or I don't know what kind of other itch bothered them about it. And I think Turkey held up a big veto smack, be like, no. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know how it's going to play out, but if they do become members of NATO while Turkey is holding the veto card, things will become very interesting. Maybe alliances might even change at that point.
But I think what Turkey is stating is that that these countries are sponsoring what Turkey considers terrorist type organizations and the Kurds, right? So I think that's the main issue. I think those were one of the, at least on the surface, that's what Turkey is saying, right? And when you read the sort of mainstream headlines, is that they feel that these countries are, until they don't take care of that issue, that Turkey would not accept them being part of NATO. Yeah. Alex?
Well, there's a couple issues going on there, right? There are lobbying groups in Sweden and Finland that lobby for support of the Kurd and the Kurdish separatists.
Yeah, Kurdish. Yeah.
So it's not a huge issue for the Nordic countries. It's just lobbying groups that have lobbied their government to support the Kurdish groups. Turkey is pushing. They put the veto. They said we're not going to allow you guys in NATO until you address our concerns. So they're going to bring to them and say, if you want to join NATO against Russian aggressiveness and expansionism, then you're going to have to stop supporting these Kurdish groups. Whether terrorists or not, whatever it is, right? Turkey views them as terrorists. Obviously, if you were to ask a Kurd, they would say no. If you ask other governments, they would say no. But they say you're going to have to address these issues that you have. Finland and Sweden have no real incentive to keep those groups, supplying those groups and helping those groups. So, they're going to wind up eventually making some kind of deal to save face. The second issue, which is the biggest issue that I think for Turkey, is that they want Finland and Sweden to buy a certain percentage of Turkish military goods.
Oh, really?
This is a must for them on the table. And Erdogan said it in not so many few words that, you can't be part of NATO and be part of a group and boycott Turkish goods, right? And he's specifically talking about military goods. So now that Finland and Sweden are going to join NATO, they have to pay a certain percentage of their GDP has to go to military spending. So that all the countries are looking around like pigs, okay, we're gonna get money, So Turkey's like, yo, we're gonna veto you. Everybody else is okay with you, but we're not. So that means that you have to buy a percentage of our weapons. Period.
We all remember.
Interesting.
We all remember the time when Nokia was the phone back in the day.
Nokia, yeah.
Right. So what happened? So what happened to Nokia?
Other companies took over.
The iPhone.
Their smart management, didn't see the smartphone era creeping up, although they actually had a prototype ready. I even bought it when it came out because I was such a diehard Nokia fan. But it tells you how the Finnish people think, their long-term plans or goals, not there.
Wait, isn't Nokia... Is it Finnish or Swedish?
It's Finnish.
It's Finnish. Okay, gotcha.
And it's finished. It's finished.
It's finished and it's finished.
Yeah, I disagree with you on that, and we can talk about Finland one day. But Finland is one of the most prepared countries in the world for Russian aggression. And this is just
for Russian aggression, maybe. But I'm talking about their farsight. Not comparable to what Turkey's farsight is.
But you know what Alex just said.
He actually brought up a really good point because.
Very good point. No, yeah.
Because what they are trying to do, at one hand they want to do one thing, and the other end they're trying to screw over Turkey. In the same.
No, but I was gonna say that. I was gonna.
There's goods. It's like a slap back.
It's all about money at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, but hold up. I was gonna say that because a lot of people, and this has been like, if you read about Erdogan, right, and you read about like his character profile and what people say about him and what other people think about him, is that they always feel that he always drives hard bargains in the interest of his country, right?
No.
So
every time they talk to him, he gives them a glimpse of the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah. But what Alex was saying goes perfectly with that, right? It goes perfectly with that he's going to drive a hard bargain in the interest of his own country, right? So, I mean, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, so countries are there, like I said about Russia, modern countries are the inheritors of their forefathers' geopolitical desires. So, it comes with the territory. So the third reason why he is threatening to veto the Nordic countries is to get concessions from Russia.
Right.
So, hey, look, we're going to slow them down or we're going to stop them, but you guys need to turn the other way when we have this offensive operation in Syria next month.
Yeah.
It comes
makes sense.
It comes to the one thing I just told you. They have cushioned themselves in a perfect spot. They'll get concessions from all around because they're like the dead center of that table.
Yeah. So, and U.S. foreign ambassador is going to meet them. And the Greeks went to the U.S. recently and went in front of the Congress, or I don't know if they went in front of our Congress or their Congress, but they did come to the United States to try to lobby against Turkey getting weapons. But
isn't there news of Saudi Arabia making a visit to Turkey, or was it the other way around?
So because of the Arab Spring. And because of certain issues in Saudi Arabia and the Arab world, the Turks and the Khalij, which is the Gulf nations, and Egypt were at odds with each other. They were not on even speaking terms. Qatar actually requested Turkish troops come to Qatar. And Turkey's also involved in Libya. There's Turkish troops in Libya, and they are fighting against Egyptian and Saudi-backed government groups in Libya. So there's a lot of issues there. So again, with the pragmatist kind of philosophy, he joined the fold. He needs their support right now because the Turkish lira, the inflation in Turkey right now is horrible.
Qatar actually did a lot backing to stabilize their lira. And Qatar's been there for them for quite a while now.
So I don't think that we should really get into the finance right now, but they're having major issues right now, so they're going to the Gulf Arabs for support. They need their support, so they're again with the pragmatist theme. I'll say sorry if I need to. If I have to.
Yeah, I think Erdogan just said, "Who's Khashoggi?" I don't remember.
Yeah. Who's that? What? So but one thing I did want to bring up, and it would be a disservice if we didn't. The Armenian and Azerbaijani conflict stems from the Soviet Union collapse, which ties into Russia, and also ties into the Ottoman Empire collapse, and the so the Turks will, if we have any Turkish viewers or the Turkish government will say that there was no genocide in Armenia. So for the viewer who don't know, during World War One, in Ottoman Empire there was a large population of Armenians and Alawites and Arabs and the Turks, under the Young Turks specifically, focused on the Armenians. They wanted the Armenians out of the country, and the Armenians say, and most countries say, that they committed a genocide against the Armenian people. I don't have the exact numbers.
Alex, by the way,
in the millions,
right? But you may want to tell the viewers that the Young Turks, who they were a little bit, because lot of people, when they hear Young Turks now, it's like those two guys who do that show on MSNBC.
They're thinking of TYT.
Yeah. So basically, the Ottoman Empire was ruled under a sultan. Okay.
Right.
The Ottoman Empire was weak. So a bunch of military officers called themselves the Young Turks, and took over the country de facto, and they were running the country before and during World War One.
Yeah, this was after Sultan Abdul Hamid, who was the last caliph.
Yeah, they were the driving force behind the Armenian genocide, and Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. He was in a completely different region. His hands were clean from this. He even adopted Armenian children to, raise them, and there's Armenians fled all throughout the entire Ottoman territory to get away from these atrocities. There's Armenians that went to Egypt, there's Armenians that went to Syria, there's Armenians that went to all parts of the world. And even to this day, if you do blood tests in certain people, on DNA tests in Egypt and in Syria, et cetera, there is Armenian blood there. And so it's definitely an issue that needs to be addressed. So Turkey right now is in peace talks with Armenia, and they haven't agreed on anything. I think the stickling point is that they admit that there was a genocide.
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. That's like a very, like you said, it's a very dark chapter. It's very controversial as well. But I think that around that time, this was around like early 1920s or late 19. It was probably around that time,
World War One. It was during World
War time. But at that time, also, newspapers were started to get more prominent in circulation, and actually, there's a lot of historical newspapers where you can still find which talked about the sort of atrocities that were committed against the Armenians. One last interesting tidbit I'll share about the Young Turks. They were the three main leaders were the three pashas, right? They were called the three pashas.
Right.
And one interesting thing is that after the Young Turks were, basically Mustafa Kemal kind of took more power after the Battle of Gallipoli, and the three pashas basically ran for their lives. And you know what the interesting thing is? All three were killed by
Armenians
in different parts of the world. So, anyways, just wanted to share that bit of a little bit of history for you guys.
And like I'll say, like, my personal opinion.
Yeah.
If it quacks like a duck, you know what I'm saying? So.
Okay.
So, but
yeah, folks, irony is a real thing. Beware of karma.
So let's bring out the crystal ball, fellas.
Let's wrap it up. Yeah, let's do our crystal ball segment where we each get to predict what's going to happen with the Turkey and the current Russia-Ukraine crisis. Saint, you go first.
Well, maybe if the Swiss put a lot more Swiss cheese, on Erdogan's plate, maybe he'll back down on the veto, but I don't see that going that way.
Swiss cheese, bro.
What?
Sweden,
Swiss cheese?
not Switzerland.
That's fine, man. I'm using it as a metaphor.
He wants Sweden to send him Saabs, maybe, like the car. Send him Saabs.
All the Nordic companies
not
have
Saab,
great cheese,
Saabs.
so we'll just wrap it with more cheese.
All right, fair enough.
So, like,
Alex?
put more money on his plate, and then he'll play ball, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think it depends. Turkey definitely has a bright future, but they have a bunch of things that they need to juggle.
Hopefully their financial, situation doesn't put him in a corner or make him have to make decisions which he really doesn't want to. But it's going to be a tough one. I'll tell you honestly, nobody wants to be in that seat right now. But Erdogan is the only one who's got the caliber to handle this pressure.
Yeah, that portion of the world specifically has to deal with a lot.
It's a lot of politics.
They have a lot of neighbors. So, I think they have a bright future. There's a bunch of issues that are going on right now. If he can thread the needle and get them through these issues, then Turkey's going to have a bright future. I feel as far as the Nordic countries go, they're going to let the veto go. They're going to let them in NATO.
Yeah.
They're going to get concessions. They're going to have them purchase military weapons from them. They're going to get a few concessions from Russia saying, hey, look, we helped you as best as we could, but at the end of the day, they're going to try to box Russia in. So they can focus on France and the Gulf and all that stuff. Right now, Erdogan is not popular in his country. He is not
really
he's not popular. No, the inflation is like hurting a lot of people. He is not.
Yeah,
popular.
Inflation. Yeah.
If there was an election today, he would not win.
But here's the thing: inflation is everywhere.
Not 70%, my man.
Yeah, it's pretty high in Turkey. He's right. It's 70%. He's right.
So the everyday Turk is not a fan of him right now. So, but that being said, the election I think is next year. There's a lot of time between now and then. Who knows what's going to happen? So if he can thread the needle and kind of get Turkey into this, and I think he's going to try with the whole foreign policy boogeyman kind of deal like everybody else does. And I think he'll but we'll see. But if it's him or someone else, I think that the Turkish foreign policy is going to stay the course. I think they found the right mix.
How do we close this?
Rizke, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Alex, I agreed with almost everything you said. You can never predict these things, right? I mean, there are just so many variables. But I think, the inflation, I think, is a very important factor. And because with the inflation being so high, it could force Erdogan to make choices that, he may not necessarily be wanting to make, perhaps at times, and so on and so forth. Having said that, though, I'm a fan of the Turkish people. I love Turkish people. I love Turkish food. Every Turkish person I met, has always been super nice, super cool. So I'm going to cheer for them. I think Erdogan has that neo-Ottoman type mindset, given his lineage and whatnot. So I think he's going to keep Turkey involved in all these different excursions. And how those play out is going to determine whether he's going to be, Turkey's going to be successful or not. So I guess it's it's going to depend on that. But I do think that Finland and Sweden will eventually get to be members of NATO. I think Erdogan is driving a hard bargain right now, which he should for his country, for his interests. So I think he's trying to get the best deal. He's like a deal maker and a heartbreaker. I think Finland and Sweden will join NATO. I think Turkey will play both Russia and the U.S. depending on where their interests are. And yep, that's what I got to say.
I'm gonna just echo from what you just said that to the Turkish people, in my opinion, Erdogan is the only one who can juggle what's going on, the deals. I think if you let him, he'll make the deals. Because he's the only one capable of doing such insanity.
Oh, all right.
I'd Turkey's a very talented country with a lot of talented people in it. All right.
All right. Great show, guys. Yeah. Oh yeah. Before we finish, just a few housekeeping things. So we have the official YouTube page up now, right? And we're going to keep adding the content on there. I'm going to start making playlists so it's easier for you guys to find videos within certain categories. We have a Facebook page, Somewhat Podcast Men. Search it on Facebook, share, spread the love, spread the love, not the hate.
I will add the links to under.
Yes, please add the links. All right. It was fun, guys.
All right.
Until next time.
It's been a podcast.